A indústria do turismo foi uma das que mais sofreram com as restrições impostas pela pandemia de coronavírus desde 2020. Ninguém passou incólume nesse setor, nem mesmo as maiores empresas do mundo. A pandemia ainda não acabou, mas já impôs mudanças tão profundas na sociedade que é impossível a gente não se perguntar, afinal, qual é o futuro do setor hoteleiro? Quem vai nos ajudar a encontrar essa resposta é Ricardo Caló, vice-presidente do Marriott International para a América Central e América do Sul. Good evening, Mr. Caló. Thank you so much for joining us at FII Talks.
Hello, Mariana. Thank you for having me here today.
So let's start with an overview of your operations right now here in Latin America and around the world. Are there any hotels still closed or with their capacity not fully restored?
Well, yes. This is the good news is that is the list of hotels that we have not open yet. It's around 10% for Caribbean and Latin America. The reasons vary. It's not always related necessarily to COVID, although the COVID was the trigger for these hotels to close. And restrictions we have, depending on the market, we have different, restrictions to follow. And sometimes the capacities of our hotels, restaurants, banquet events, etc., are limited depending on the market and the local authorities' designation. So again, this is sometimes we have 30% of our capacity only open to sell, sometimes 50% depending on the market. But there are certain restrictions, yes.
And where is the situation better and worst?
Well, right now, if you take a look at where the business is flowing, the Caribbean hotels and the Mexican resorts, and resorts overall, wherever the markets are open, are having the best opportunities. All those hotels that were heavily dependable on business travel, those are really suffering these days. And where restrictions are really strict, that is also impacting all our business.
Some analysts expect that the hotel sector here in Brazil start to show a real recovery by the end of this year, but probably it will not get back to 2019 numbers before 2023. Is this also your forecast for Marriott?
Well, in some markets, yes. We have hotels that typically cater international travelers. So we depend heavily on airlift connection and airports being open and people traveling for congresses and events, etc. So those markets that have more domestic travel are doing better than those that depend, of course, in international travel.
And what do you think is the situation here for Brazil, for your Brazilian operations?
Well, it is heavily dependable on how we can build trust on the different destinations and the healthcare systems and how we roll out vaccinations. And we are making progress. That's the good news. Brazil, as you know, has limited, entries from some countries around the world and vice versa. And this is starting to go away slowly, but go away. So good news are coming. I believe we are really optimistic about the future. The recovery is slow, but it is steady. So slowly we are going back to more normal times. But again, we have to keep an eye on the different variants that they are out there and how we can react to those outbursts that probably happen in some of our markets.
And do you see these challenges being more explicit in some specific country?
No, I believe this is overall. It's not necessarily a country situation. We in Latin America are seeing different, recovery phases. But when you analyze more in detail, South America as an overall is more or less in the same situation. We have markets like Uruguay and Chile with more than 70% of the population fully vaccinated, and they still have a lot of restrictions in place. So this is not a situation that is particular to one country. It's more a regional situation.
Right. Well, leisure tourism is expected to recover earlier. Some analysts say that we will see a lot of revenge travels from now on, with people aiming to go out and travel after so much time stuck at home. But I have two questions here. One, what are you doing to capture part of this movement? And what do you think about corporate travels, which are the focus of some of your brands?
Well, very good question. And that is the focus segment we are all working on. No? Just to give you a context, the situation in Latin America, we compare our numbers to 2019, it fell more than 70%. And as I mentioned, in Central and South America, for more than that. No? We depend on the vaccine rollout. For sure, it was low in our part of the world compared to other destinations, and this somehow deterred international travelers to a more COVID-safe destination. But now we are seeing a recovery that accelerated, in particular in the second quarter of the year. We have some positive signs for Latin America, as I mentioned, and while the trends vary from region to region, we are keeping a close eye on the Delta variant as well. And we are optimistic, as I mentioned, on the recovery trajectory ahead of us. So opportunities, you mentioned, leisure is extremely important right now. Most of our business is related to people taking time off and spending time in different locations. And also the local traveler, no? The domestic traveler, no? People rediscovering their own country and traveling to destinations that probably they can drive to rather than taking a plane to. No? So yeah, leisure is extremely important, and making sure that all our hotels are still in the mind of our local domestic travelers, and that whatever we offer as a service that is specialized for this kind of traveler is relevant for them. No? Probably many of these people, they didn't spend time in this kind of hotels in the past, so they need to rediscover these hotels. Our doors are always open for this kind of travelers, and this is extremely important for us.
And what are you doing to show your hotels as a destination for the domestic tourist?
Well, it is extremely important to have technology and all our apps, our applications, prepared to cater this new guest. I mean, they were prepared before the pandemic, but now we are seeing a lot of people doing their research through technology. So it is extremely important to have our apps ready for this. This is a critical must-have for travelers right now, the use of technology, but also making sure that our hotels are prepared in, for example, cleanliness protocols. No? We revise our entire cleanliness protocols. It is an extremely important aspect of our service for the last 93 years in the company. But, looking forward, and when the pandemic started, actually, the company put together a global cleanliness council with members from our company and from outside the company, which are always revising what's happening, what's the latest information, and making sure that we cater those trusted, offer to our guests. No? And finally, personalize and localize. No? Since the growth of the domestic business travel is important, we want our customers to explore all we have to offer in the nearby locations. So, our food and beverage services, our spa services, our, academia, our pools, our, whatever is available to offer. We're trying to be really creative and innovative in how to make sure that our guests know what we have to offer, that offer complies with local regulations, that we keep our hotel clean and in a very safe environment. We revise our housekeeping protocols, not only what we have to do in the hotel, but also all the training of our employees. The same with food and beverage. We utilize technology for example, check-in procedures, with the app You can, check in with your phone. You can open the door of your room with a phone, and of course, respecting all the distancing, measures that we have to take in all the hotels. So, safe environment, a lot of opportunities. It is affordable, and it's open for our local guests.
I imagine that you had a lot of work and had to make a lot of investment to make all these adjustments to receive this new guest and to adjust your cleaning protocols and everything.
Absolutely, yes. I mean, we added some technology like the electrostatic sprayers, which is the latest technology to keep all the surfaces clean in a room or the banquet meetings or the restaurants, etc. But overall, was just making sure that we utilize the right equipment, the right chemicals, and that we train properly our people. This is a constant, as I mentioned, in our company. This was just readapting to the new reality.
Mm-hmm. And do you think this new reality, all those adjustments, is gonna last beyond the pandemic?
Yes, I believe so. I mean, the cleanliness protocols are here to stay, and probably they will be enhanced in the future as soon as we know more about this situation. But yes, this is something that is here to stay. It was always here. I mean, as I mentioned, we work in Marriott for the last 90 years, making sure that our rooms are fully clean. But this is being enhanced once we were impacted by the pandemic. The use of technology, all the companies usually invest in technology, but there are certain things like the menus at the restaurant that now you just click on the QR menu and you have all the entire menu in your cell phone. The mobile app that is also being enhanced, and you have this possibility to open the door of your room with a mobile key. The hybrid events, I mean, having events with some people in the location and many others connected through this technology that we are using today, and some others that are available out there. So, I mean, there are certain things that they are here to stay. Of course, we all believe that people like to travel. We all believe in the importance of having face-to-face conversations, especially when you do business. So there will be some sort of balance looking forward. I mean, home office is excellent, but I believe that not everyone is prepared to do home office or has the facilities in their homes to do home office. So again, many things came to stay, and some others will somehow find a balance in the future.
Regarding these, I talk to executives and professionals in general, and I feel that they might have realized that they don't need to travel as much as they used to, not only during the pandemic, but also after it. Do you think that we are facing a permanent change regarding this?
Well, probably yes. I mean, many things will change looking forward. But again, I was talking to a doctor the other day, and he had a lot of contacts in laboratories and other doctors around the world, etc. And the way that he did all that, he was traveling to the congresses and spending time with other colleagues and spending time in dinners and presentations, etc., etc. So I believe that certain travel probably will be revised looking forward, and having this opportunity to do this interview through these technologies is great. Perhaps in the past, I was only given this interview when I was traveling to Sao Paulo or to Rio or whatever. But I strongly believe that at some point the business travel will be resumed. And again, because of the importance of being face to face. Of course, I mean, many companies are revising their how they did business, and adding technology is extremely important. I have to acknowledge that, and things will change. But again, there will be a balance. Not as much as today, but perhaps not as much as in the past.
And what do you plan to do at Marriott to keep revenue if this is the scenario that we have from now on?
Well, we have to look inside more. Sometimes in the different countries where we do business, there is a lot of opportunities with domestic travel, with making sure that locals embrace our hotels and our offer in the different markets. But we know, this is something that we alone can't change. We need, of course, collaboration from the different governments, inspiring trust and confidence to travel, and that travel is safe. Again, we need to restore all the airlift. We lost connectivity in many of our destinations, and there is an extremely important aspect of our business, airports and aviation in general. We need to partner more with tourism offices and destination offices to somehow shift the strategy and to speak more to the local traveler. Also create destination, incentives to somehow entice larger groups to travel again. That is a very important aspect of our business that we lost, the group, business. Also, when we monitor Europe, Asia, and some other important, markets, they are adopting different strategies, but they're starting to see that international travel is resuming. So that is something that, since we are in different phases of recovery, we see that the international traveler is coming back. So again, the strategy right now is more for local and domestic travelers, but we see that the markets which are in a better phase of recovery are starting to see this international travel. Of course, we have to be really prepared to mitigate any second or third or fourth, depending where you are, outbreak. And for us, is making sure that the hotels are clean, making sure that we have a clear operating implications to protect guests and associates, and of course, making sure that we have the right technology to cater the different kind of business that we are seeing in the future.
We've noticed that many people who decide to travel during the pandemic, they choose to rent a place and stay alone with their families rather than staying at a hotel. This was already an issue before for the sector, since platforms like Airbnb came to life. How are you dealing with this?
Well, we don't see Airbnb as a competitor for us directly. It is somehow a complement, because Airbnb is offering something that we can't, and we are offering something that they can't. So being flexible to the future is extremely important. As we talk about leisure travel, is something that we are seeing a lot, but also we saw some long stays staying in our hotels. Some of our guests combining family and work, which is also very important, since people who are still working as a home office. They can work anywhere, and if the hotel has the right technology, they can do it anywhere. Leisure is also important, and leisure sometimes they depend on the trust that we can give them with our cleaning protocols. So this is somehow a blend of what we were offering and what we can offer in the future. But yes, long stays are important. We are seeing those in our hotels, and we have to make sure that we can cater those as well. So giving the right cleaning protocols, giving the right food and beverage offer, and having a really creative offer for this kind of guests.
What do you think that customers need to feel safe in a hotel again? You mentioned the vaccination and the government action too. Do you think that you still have what to do as a company, or now it's something that maybe the government should do?
Well, it is actually the entire industry, because whenever you decide to travel, it's not the hotel is kind of your final destination in some cases. So all the entire experience has to be revised. You have, depending where you travel, you need to have the proof of your vaccine. So you have to have, and this is growing, the proof of vaccine. And you have to have your PCR testing 72 hours before traveling. Once you're you arrive to your destination, probably have to do a new one, etc., etc. So this entire experience that is suffering, a complete change, and that is extremely important for all of us. We can do as much as we can, all the different, actors of the industry. But as I mentioned before, the collaboration of governments is extremely important. We have to inspire trust, and if you are traveling and something happens with your health, you have to be sure that you could be, well attended at a hospital, and the health system is working, and your support and your health insurance covers you, etc., etc. So there is a lot of work that needs to be done. Travel agents, airlines, hotel business, lodging industry, as an overall, we need to work hard on making sure that people trust that if they travel and something happens to them, they will be taken care of now. And that confidence to travel, again, is not something easy to put together, because we are facing something that no one expected and was unprecedented. So, there are a lot of priorities that need to be tackled before, making sure that tourism is back. But again, tourism gives a lot of employment for many of our countries, and it's a very important, actor in this, entire business environment of a market. So, we have to work collaboratively with the different governments, but we also make sure that we do what we have to do, which is respecting local authorities, making sure that all the protocols are in place, following all the restrictions as mandated, and making sure that we collaborate with the business as an overall.
And do you think that governments are being able to inspire confidence here in Latin America, as you mentioned?
Well, they are. The rollout of the vaccine was somehow slow at the beginning, but now you start to see that South America is making good progress. Countries like Brazil, Argentina, which were way behind Chile and Uruguay at the very beginning, they are really making progress with that. The number of cases is going down, and we are making good progress. And we start to see a lot of people interested in traveling to these destinations, even though borders may or may not be open. But this will take time. This is not only what we can do and what we can collaborate and the governments can do, but also is people trusting to jump in a plane and travel to our destinations, which typically, if you consider North America and Europe, the flight to get to South America is really long. We're talking about 10 hours, 13 hours, depending destination. So in order to board a plane and for a long haul flight, they have to be really sure that once they get there, if something happens, they will be well taken care of. So we're making progress. Of course, depending on the market, the recovery is different, and the situation may be different. The economic situation of the country may be different, and we are not all in the same phase. That is a math, and that is, something that is happening. But we are making progress, which is good.
If we were to put all Latin American countries in a rank, where do you think Brazil would be?
Well, that's a very interesting question. I believe that, we see countries that kept their borders open. We see countries that kept their borders closed. We see countries that, they roll out the vaccine much faster than others, etc., etc. So it is difficult to rank, but I believe that Brazil somehow sits in the middle. We are not seeing all the business we would like to see in Brazil coming from outside the country. But Brazil is a very strong country with all the local and domestic travel. So when you compare Brazil to other countries that kept their borders closed and just compare domestic travel, Brazil is a much stronger position than the others. Those that are receiving international tourism because they are closer to the United States or because of the resort facilities that they have, etc., they are in a much better position compared to South America. So Brazil as a whole, I mean, when you compare Brazil to the rest of South America, I believe that they are in a good position. And as I mentioned, they are doing a very good process. You are doing a very good process with the vaccine rollout. So I'm really positive about the future and how we will recover in Brazil in the short run.
2 or 3 years ago, you said that Brazil had an important role in Marriott's plans for Latin America. Is this still true?
It is. It is. Yes. We were able to sign a few deals in the last few years. It's a W in Sao Paulo, a W in Gramado. We are converting a hotel in Recife to an all-inclusive, which is also a segment that we're making sure that we have the right presence in the market. Brazil, when you compare the economy and the vast geography that you have and the all opportunities on the big cities that you have, it's not only one big city like in some of the countries of South America, but you have Sao Paulo, you have Rio, you have stadiums, you have all the infrastructure to do a great events and cater large congresses, etc., etc. So yes, it is always a goal for us to be more present in Brazil. As you know, our business is we need to have partners, we need to have parceiros, local parceiros to do business. So we are always in looking for those opportunities. We are not only looking for new builds, new hotels, but also conversions. And there are some possibilities out there. So yes, Brazil remains to be a very critical market for us. We have presence there, but we would like to have more. So working towards that goal.
Mm-hmm. Yes, can you tell us a little bit more about the size of Brazil in your operations and plans nowadays?
Well, right now Brazil is in second place in South America. It's in a third place in the total CALA region. CALA is Caribbean and Latin America for the number of hotels we have in Brazil. And also for the importance of the hotels that we have in Brazil, because we have strong presence in Sao Paulo, and in the near future opening some hotels as well. Rio de Janeiro is an extremely important market for us. We have in Santos, we have in Porto Alegre. So the presence there is important. It's second to Colombia on the number of hotels. And it's third to to Mexico. Mexico, we have around 80 hotels. In Brazil, we have 15. So that is a big difference.
You mentioned São Paulo, Recife. What are the regions and cities here in Brazil that you see as the most interesting now for the hotel industry?
Well, Sao Paulo is always very attractive. It is difficult to open a new hotel because the sites are typically taken by a lot of other buildings that we have in Sao Paulo. But whenever there is an opportunity there, we are really looking forward to that opportunity. And thank God we have some opportunities right now there. But we had opportunity to sign this deal with Gramado, which I personally was not fully aware of that destination. I heard about it, but I was never there. And once we discovered Gramado, there's a very huge opportunity there. And then when you analyze, we have cities like Brasilia, we have Minas Gerais, where we don't have presence, and we should. So those are destinations we are looking forward to have hotels in the future. And Rio, of course, Rio is always very attractive. Because of all the facilities that the city has, and the geography, etc. So looking for opportunities in Rio is always attractive as well.
Rio is attractive again because it wasn't some few years ago, right? It was.
Well, but there's not always new hotels to come on board. There are conversion opportunities. A hotel that has a different brand or is independent and wants to convert to a new brand. There was a lot of new offer in the last few years, as you know, it's particularly because of the Olympics and the soccer, football, championship. But now, there's always a balance that the markets need to find, and I believe that Rio is finding that balance. And again, there are opportunities, and having the right parcero in the right location is always a good opportunity for us.
We know that doing business in Brazil is not particularly easy, even less during a pandemic. We still have to deal with COVID, but we also have a population that lost income, high unemployment, inflation, especially in the construction sector, and we have also a lot of political noise. What is the impact of all of this, in your view, for the country's hotel sector?
Well, doing business in Latin America is, you describe what happens in many other countries, and if you analyze our presence in Brazil, we started with the Sheraton Rio more than 50 years ago, and we went through a lot of these processes, and the business is always there. I mean, sometimes more impacted or less impacted because of the factor you just described, but the business is always there, and we have to make sure that we create opportunities for the future. When you book a congress, you're talking about 2 to 3 years ahead of time. So we don't know exactly where we're going to be in that time and space. But we have to adapt to those situations. I'm currently in Argentina, so I know exactly what you mean. But there were some civil unrest situations in Chile a couple of years ago, this year in Colombia. So we have to live with that and make sure that we are flexible enough to adapt to different situations, and that the return on investment for our owners is always there. Yes, of course, the fluctuations impact the business, but you have to create your own base of business that could be different segments of the market that you can look better than others. But again, it's adaptability, flexibility, making sure that we keep good control of our cost, and that the business is flowing and maximizing every opportunity that we have.
You mentioned before that there was a 70% decline in business here in the region, and how are things right now? Well,
as a Central America, Caribbean, and South America, we are seeing Mexico. Right now, we are around 50% less than 2019, which is much better than last year, of course, but far from where we would like to be. That 50% depends on the market, because, as I mentioned, Caribbean is doing much better than the rest of the different areas. The Mexico resorts are doing much better than the city hotels. South America is in a kind of more complicated situation. It is a little bit higher than that 50%, but it will always depend on the different markets. Those that have a stronger, domestic, travel are doing better than those that don't.
Marriott suspended dividend last year for the first time since the company went public in 1953. Do you think it's possible that it occurs again this year?
Well, I mean, what we are seeing is nothing is certain right now. The uncertainty is still out there, because we can control what we can control, but this is clearly something that we can't. So I can't say that we won't do it again in the future, but what we are seeing in the recovery around the world is strong. The markets that have more presence for us, like the United States, China, and Europe overall, they are doing well, and they are recovering better than expected. So the recovery is steady. So nothing indicates that this should happen or could happen again. But again, the uncertainty is still out there, and we have to be cautious about future.
Great. And talking about future, Mr. Caló, if you could summarize your view of the hotel sector from now on, what would it be, this summary of this industry?
Well, the profile of the guests has changed slightly. As we talked about, we have more long stays. We have people traveling with their families and combining, leisure with work. Leisure demand is still the strongest segment in our business, and we have to make sure that we are prepared to cater that. I mean, and being innovative, city hotels can cater leisure travelers as well. The business transient and the groups are still kind of lagging from the rest, so those will take some time to recover. We are keeping an eye on all the restrictions and making sure that we collaborate with the different governments, and we are prepared to receive guests whenever the restrictions are lifted, which is extremely important. Domestic travel, as I mentioned to you, perhaps this was an important segment in the past, but now it's extremely important. And typically the domestic traveler has a different profile than the international traveler, and they spend more time in the hotels, which is very important for us, but we have to make sure that we can cater those. We also see that many people couldn't travel, and as you mentioned at the very beginning, and you opening remarks, you talk about revenge travel. I don't know if that's the right word, but we know that people will start traveling again because those that could save some money, and they're expecting to travel at some point. So that is also something that we have to be prepared for. And many people, they can't even travel to say hello to their family members. So there were celebrations that were postponed, like anniversaries, graduations, you name it. So there is a very important opportunity out there, and being innovative, doing events that perhaps you couldn't even think about those in the past, and these hybrid events that are happening, and making sure that your venues, F&B venues, are open for locals and attractive for locals. So, I mean, redefining the entire situation is important. It is being redefined. It is changing, but many things came to stay, and that is extremely important that you're prepared for. So looking into the future is more of this, and of course embracing the possibility to start receiving business transient travelers and groups now, which are extremely important for many hotels.
Great, Mr. Caló. Thank you so much for this interview. I hope we have the opportunity to talk again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for the interview.
Ok. E você continua agora com a programação do FII Talks. Até a próxima.